got very good arms.
He didn't fall? Inconceivable.
You keep using the word. I don't think it means what you think it means.
Welcome back to Thinking Critical. This is Wes. And it appears, according to some people, that comic sales are actually up following Diamond. The pandemic shut down basically the comic book industry when Diamond stopped distributing comics. The person where I'm getting this information from is a Bleeding Cool column by Lamberti from Rodman Comics in Iowa, not too far away from where I actually grew up. Obviously, I'm in the Philippines now, but I did grow up in Missouri, in the northwest Missouri, if I'm being more specific, and not too far from the border of Iowa. So he owns a comic shop, and he has seen his third quarter sales actually dramatically increase, and he was offering less services for that, so his profits actually increased even more. So that was very exciting for him. I've heard similar things. Obviously, Pele, who's a contributor to the channel, has seen his sales go up. He's more of a back comic book sales shop than new comics. But he has seen more customers coming in, spending more money. Not certain that this is anecdotal evidence just to their shops, but I did want to talk about it. He provides some of his reasoning on why he thinks the sales were up. Some of it has to do with Lunar and the fact that they're delivering products that are undamaged and they're not shorting any of their orders to him. He also thinks a lot of it has to do with DC's move to New Comic Book Tuesday that's had another day of the week that drives traffic into the store. But he also thinks the lack of movies being out right now means people have more money to spend on entertainment. All very interesting ideas. And so I did want to talk about this, obviously, with Perch. El Percherino comes onto the channel. We discussed these things. So he's going to give his perspective on this. And we'll talk about Rod Lamberti's specific quotes, and then we'll discuss his thoughts on some of the things that Mr. Lamberti says. If you don't read, I'm not a big fan of Bleeding Cool, but I do enjoy this column. Rod has a lot of interesting takes, a lot of information that he provides. I believe it's a weekly column, so I always check this one out. We don't always talk about it here on the channel, but when he says something like this, we're definitely going to cover it here. Now, before I bring on Perch and we kind of talk about the details of the article, which there will be a link in the video description. I do want to say, if you haven't subscribed to the channel, subscribe, hit the bell for notifications. Give me a thumbs up if you enjoyed this video. Give me a thumbs down if you don't. Either way, Perch and I want to hear from you in the comment section. What do you think about the anecdotal evidence from Mr. Lamberti and Pele? Are comic sales up? If you're a retailer, is that what you're seeing as well? I definitely want to hear from people. Or do you think comic sales are down? Could it be true? Well, it appears that it is. Now, to get into all the details, let's bring on Perch and talk about the quotes from Mr. Lamberti himself. So I'm glad you could join me here today, Perch. Obviously, this was a very interesting article. I normally read these from Rod Lamberti over on bleedingcool.com. He normally has some cool insights. I was a little bit surprised by this quote right here. We cut back hours because of coronavirus, closed on Thursdays, even had a week when we lost power on Monday and didn't get it back till Friday. No Friday night magic or gaming events. We reduced our staff, and somehow we had better sales than the previous year's third quarter. Better sales with less, of course, means more profit. Is this something we're hearing from a lot of retailers, that despite the pandemic shutdown and coming back and maybe not being open as much, offering less services, that people are actually buying more comics?
Yeah, we've heard scattered results of that. I think that, it goes back to that thing we talked about a week or two ago, where the top selling comics are selling more. And so for retailers, in many cases, this is an easier situation to wrap your head around. This means that the stuff that's promoted, the stuff that's at the, like Three Jokers is being promoted. We know it's a top book. Retailers order more of that, and it sells more. So it's an easier, one-to-one relationship. A lot of comic shops were not the best at selling through what they ordered. And I think part of what has happened is they're ordering less, especially of the lower and middle line, more of the top line, and they're selling through more. And so that is going to mean more sales, and it's going to mean more profit for them. I think, keep in mind, though, for the listeners here, this is a person talking about better sales. This is at the store level, not the industry level. And so that's maybe where you get confused. You're seeing this going, this doesn't map exactly to what I've been hearing more globally with the comic industry. This is a shop who's tuning their model to get better sales, and that's good for him. Good for Rod, and I think he seems to run a pretty tight ship in many cases with what he does. But this is his sales are improving, and that's a good thing.
Yeah, this is anecdotal for his store and what he's seeing, and obviously Pele has reported something very similar, although he sells mostly back issues through his comic shop, and we do know that some comic shops have closed down, so there might be less shops on the market means more customers bleeding over, and hopefully sales are going up and people are managing their inventory better.
Yeah, I think so. And I think if you are going to rely on a strategy of just selling the top titles more, it's going to be easier to order. It's going to be easier to sell through. And you see a lot of stores in that scenario. And frankly, people are buying more comics right now because they're looking for entertainment things to do. We also do see a renewed interest, like I said, from Pele and back issue sales. You see some of these larger events. I have concerns of what this teaches the industry. I think this is going to teach the big two at least to do events and just events and really kind of focus only there. But I think this works for a shop. I don't necessarily think this means the comic industry is healthy, but it does mean that this one aspect of it understands how to make a profit and it's healthy. It's a nuance, but it's an important one.
Absolutely. It's the retailers, you have to adapt to the environment that you're dealing with. Now, he offers some ideas of why he thinks this is happening, and I thought this was interesting. The first one was Lunar as a distributor for DC Comics, zero damages or shortages the entire time we've been using them. Diamond, even with decades of experience in the business, send us the vast majority of their shipments to us with damages and shortages. I would say maybe 2 of the regular Diamond weekly shipments have not had an issue after Diamond started shipping again. And he says, Lunar being able to deliver these comics, full orders, no damages, so we can get them to customers when customers come in and they get what they wanted, or they come in for what they wanted. There's even more of this. And he says that has absolutely helped his business. Absolutely.
I mean, absolutely, it's true. And I think, look, at this point, I wish that Lunar would take more of the other publishers. They're doing a good job. They're on time. I've heard scattered reports people aren't having, but by and large, I mean, the vast majority of feedback has been positive. And I think I wish they'd take more because they do a far better job with Diamond. I regularly go visit some other people here in the area. I help them unpack at different times, and we chat about what's going on. And consistently, this story is what we see here in the Pacific Northwest. It's what I hear in other places, Facebook groups and everything else. I get that there's some long-term loyalty to Diamond that people feel kind of that they want to maintain, but Lunar's doing a dramatically better job. And if the comics can get on time in a good quality to the shop, yeah, it's more reliable. It's better for the shop. It's better for the customers.
Another thing that he mentions is basically DC Comics being available on Tuesday. And he says, we caught a break by being one of the first stores to order through Lunar. Tuesdays went from being just open to get the Diamond shipment ready for making it comparable to the New Comics Wednesday level of sales, or to making it comparable to New Comics Wednesday level of sales. People were hungry for comics, and we were there to supply them. Some shops have not taken advantage of this. I know Pele has said our new comic day is Wednesday. I think if I remember correctly, talking to some of the other retailers, they also have said, even though they can sell DC Comics on Tuesday, they're just leaving it on Wednesday. And he says having a new comic day on Tuesday and Wednesday has helped sales. I'm surprised more people aren't taking advantage of this.
Yeah, I think it's bad business. Honestly, I think that if you are going to say, no, we are going to choose a later date than the official street date to sell our comics, I think that you're basically making kind of your needs surpass the customer's needs. The customer just wants the product as soon as they can get it. And if the stuff's coming in on Tuesday and you're allowed to sell it on a Tuesday, then you should sell it on a Tuesday. Unless you have some massive logistical problem that makes it hard for you to staff your shop or your clothes or whatever it happens to be. But even then, I think get your store open on Tuesday and sell the comics that are coming in. That is the street date for the books. And I think you're taking money out of your pocket if you're not doing that. And I think you're making, you're not being customer friendly. Customer friendly means that you're selling things when they're available for the customers to buy them. This idea of like, no, I like Wednesday and Wednesday is going to be the date I stick is you putting your desire over the customer. I think that's not what I would do. And I think that's the wrong choice for people to make. I think you make more profit, and I think you're more customer friendly if you sell the comics when they're available.
Absolutely. And with everything going on with DC, we just had 3 Jokers finish up. Joker War was very popular, just finished up. We're right in the middle of Dark Knight's Death Metal. There was a lot of enthusiasm for those titles, so you could bring the traffic in on that day. Yep. While Marvel's had their own events, Empire was more successful than I think we anticipated. It seems like there is a demand for Ten of Swords right now. If you get the people coming in on 2 different days, that's a second opportunity for people to look at those comics that maybe they decided not to pick up that first time. They're like, I still have that extra money. I'm going to go grab that extra comic. It's an extra opportunity for people to make some impulse buys.
It absolutely is. I think you've got more foot traffic to your store. That's a good thing. I think you're spacing out your audience. If you do have somebody that's primarily DC versus primarily Marvel, then you're distributing kind of your groups. You're going to have shorter lines at the register. If that's your situation, you're going to have more of the ability to engage with the customers because you're distributing out your audience. So maybe you have a little bit more chance to talk to your customer about something cool that's coming up or something else you can do. I think it's a good thing to have a distributed flow of your customer base, and this does supply that. And like you say, some people are going to come in on a Tuesday, pick up their comics, and then decide they forgot something on a Wednesday and buy it. And if a whole week went by, it may not be available, or they may not do that. And so it's just smart business, I think.
Also, it's pretty coronavirus friendly. A lot of people are nervous about being in large crowds. Separating your 2 days, there are DC only customers, there are Marvel and independent only customers. Giving them an opportunity to come into the store where it's less busy, it's probably just
absolutely smart. Yeah, I think all around, I don't understand the shops that are choosing to hold the comics till Wednesday. I don't agree or understand that choice, and I completely disagree with people who do that.
Mm-hmm. So another thing that he is putting this on, he says, sadly, I believe part of the reason we're seeing an increase in sales is because of the lack of new movies. No new Marvel or DC films or any real big releases helps comic sales more than if they were actually coming out, meaning Aquaman, Avengers, and all of the other films based on comic properties failed to bring in a bigger audience to comics, even their own comics. Now, the first part I completely agree with, but that second part is something I've actually thought about for a while. Are people buying less comics because the appetite is satiated through movies, through television, through streaming service, whether those characters and their adventures are really available? They're at a click of a button, and maybe you don't need to go visit the comics. And now that there's less of that out there, people still want to read about their favorite characters, and now they have to go into the comics to get them.
I really don't think so. I think, if you're going to go with the logic that people going to the movies are not crossover audiences to comics, then that argument cuts the other way too, saying that the people who are going to the movies are not cannibalizing comic sales either. I don't think that you're going to have somebody who's going to say, well, I really want to go see this movie, Ant-Man, but there isn't an Ant-Man available to me, so I'm going to go buy an Ant-Man comic. I don't think that logic, that has been the customer behavior I've ever seen. I think that people are looking for entertainment right now with theaters shut down, and I think they are turning to books and comics and other things, and I do believe that's true. I think with lack of entertainment options, you're seeing this. But, you look at the Avengers game that came out. That's, arguably a game rooted right in comic continuity, and its release has not been strong. It sold a lot initially, but as it's seen, it's rated low. It doesn't have a lot of traffic. I think the online activity that people have said is very low. The updates traffic has been small, and so I don't think that these things are cannibalizing book sales. I think that they're separate entities. So in this case, I disagree with him a bit. I think yes, people are searching for entertainment for sure, but I don't think that the movie factor is a big one here.
So you don't think people not spending money, going to the movies, if it might be $50. You do that a couple times a week, you got an extra $100 for entertainment.
No, I agree that the lack of entertainment options, including movies right now, are driving people to comics. I don't agree with the second part of his.
Okay, I got you.
Yeah.
There's so much comic book content not available in comics is keeping people away from the comics themselves.
Yeah, I think if the movies were back, then you might see entertainment dollars being directed there instead. But I don't think that that's actively hurting the comic sales because there's superhero movies in the theater.
Okay. Now, the last one I want to talk about, this is something that says some titles looking like they could be canceled at any time are now booming. Spawn is a hot book. Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles are hot now. TMNT Last Ronin has a crazy amount of heat. A person who was never into comics came in wanting to get it. Obviously, they heard it from word of mouth. We got her set up with a pull box for it. Walking Dead used to be the comic that brought in newbies to the store. Could Turtles be the new outside draw?
It might. I mean, Ninja Turtles is hot right now because it promised a premise that tends to always do well, which is this existing property that maybe there's some nostalgia around is going to have kind of a dark and edgy turn. It's going to, be not your kids' Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, and there's a sense of danger about it. There's some mystery, so 3 of the turtles are dead. Where'd they go? Why? Which ones? And that kind of stuff. I think that type of story always draws people in. Especially when you're able to tie to an older existing property and now has a new twist to it. Time remains to be seen if it can be sustained. I think, they'd be insane.
It's a 5-part miniseries. It's not exactly the new direction of TMNT.
Exactly. Now, if IDW was smart, they would absolutely be looking at how to make this a new direction or come up with an ongoing. But it could be an outside draw if it can sustain this, but it's at least 1 or 2 years too early to make that call. But yeah, I do think there's some truth to the psychology of titles looking like they could be canceled. Some titles that were kind of under the radar are now getting a second look and becoming very hot books. I do think that there's some truth to that, and I think it's going to be a very interesting 2021 as a lot of the indies really take some market share away from Marvel and DC and what they're able to do with that. I think that's going to be very interesting to watch.
Feels like the indies are what are going to bring in the new readers.
Yeah,
the DC
agree.
fans are there, the Marvel fans are there. It's the new properties that are kind of fresh and cool. Maybe people haven't read, or what are going to bring people in. Kind of like The Walking Dead. Plus, we get a lot of that material in streaming and streaming mostly. Kind of gets word of mouth going, like The Boys, stuff like that.
I think so. Yeah, I think the future of new audiences definitely in the indies.
So, Perch, thank you so much for joining me today, talking about what Rod Lamberti had to say in his recent article or his column on bleedingcool.com. Had some interesting perspectives. We will obviously keep an eye on this. These seem like trends at some retail levels. Hopefully, they'll blow up and be bigger trends, for the entire industry.
Absolutely.
If you enjoyed this video, please give it a like. I would appreciate it very much. It helps us attract more views for the channel. Subscribe for future commentary, comic book news, and reviews. And don't forget to ring the bell for notifications. If you want to talk comics, movies, and much, much more, you can follow me on Twitter at Wes_from_TC. With that, Salamat Po, and I'm out.